Sixth Contact Sunday, February 23, 1975, 10:30 p.m. Block 1, pages 50-55. Semyaza says it was a very long time before you were ready for this next contact. Billy says it just so happened because I had to do various things and, thus, was constantly strained. Semyaza says that can happen. But now, I would like to explain more to you. Billy says can't that still wait, for I myself would have something that interests me very much, something that also occupies others very much, namely the life of a person in its entirety. Semyaza says as you wish, but I actually wanted to give you an order and pass on my history that I began last time. But this can wait if you have something more important in your opinion. Billy says thanks, Semyaza. Actually, I presently have something that seems very important to me, the life of a person, as I already said. That is, I am interested in the development of one's life, its classification, the spirit and its development, and how it is with the so-called rebirth. Semyaza says, oh, I see an area that gives headaches not only to me, but on the other hand, a science that is very extensive and that, even with us, still hasn't brought any insights such that the last secrets would be known to us. Therefore, concerning this, I can only explain to you what is known to us and what we accept as given. On the whole, there are actually only 5 very important points that we know exactly, while there's still no certainty with 2 other points even for us. These led right into the secrets of the creation, which is inaccessible even to us. Nevertheless, I also wouldn't like to withhold our acceptances from you. One's life, from the beginning up to its goal, is divided, as said, into 7 main stages or main periods. These, in turn, are subdivided into 7 sub-periods, resulting in an entirety. The substages or sub-periods can be compared to grades in school. It's just that these must not be reckoned as years but as human lifetimes. In a substage, there is a quite definite developmental form and a quite definite developmental goal. Once all 7 substages are passed through, which can take hundreds of thousands of years, then our main period is completed. The spiritual life form is completely sexless because gender is only possessed, without exception, by organic life, by what means reproduction is ensured. But organic life, like spiritual life, is subject to the law of rebirth in order to ensure a development in both forms. Thus, every human life form has to live through 7 definite main stages or main periods and 7 associated secondary stages or substages periods. With location-conditioned organic life forms, the periodic effects of the seasons are decisive, while with spirit evolutionary or spirit-conditioned life forms such as human beings, the periods are irregular and often become established individually. Thus, they do not fall under a completely determined cycle like plants, etc. A rebirth of a spirit-conditioned person can take place again after the death of his body, so already after fractions of a second or, however, first after decades, centuries, thousands of years, or after hundreds of thousands of years. If a spirit-conditioned life is destroyed prematurely, that is without it having reached a relative evolutionary goal, then it is to its disadvantage. This is so, because it cannot pass through its sub-period fully and completely, and this period must be repeated or completed through an intermediate life or during a normal life cycle, so that it still reaches the goal of the period. Billy says, so that means that this life, under certain circumstances, must be lived a second time. Semyaza says in a certain sense, yes, at least from the moment when the life was destroyed by force. Of course, this life is then, accordingly, shorter, for it must only make up for something missed in order to fulfill the goal of the period. In addition, the whole thing can be made up during a normal life cycle, depending on the circumstances. Billy says, so then, one could say that it would be hell, a punishment, so to speak. Semyaza says sure, because hell, in truth, means nothing other than a self-inflicted punishment that must be served, always provided that the life itself is destroyed or terminated. In other words, this means that a sin, a self-inflicted error, must be made good again. If, however, a life is destroyed third-hand, then of course, one cannot speak of punishment or atonement, etc. Billy says, aha, so then hell and sin, in a religious sense, are pure nonsense. Semyaza says, viewed in that way, yes. Billy says, so does this mean, then, that one encounters no guilt if he commits errors in life, for which he can make amends in the way that he recognizes the error, or whatever one wants to call it, no longer commits it and takes it in as knowledge, from which then, certain wisdom must result? Semyaza says, you are able to surprise me because your interpretation encounters the deepest core of the truth. More and more, we all get the impression that you know more than we do and that you only want to test us. Somehow, a secret surrounds you, which we are not able to ventilate. Billy says that is too much glory, Semyaza, because this wisdom wasn't cultivated in my own field. I got it from the Talmud Yemanuel. Semyaza says, I understand, but still, I see that it is also your conviction, and thus, my surprise is justified, but so is our supposition, which I just made known to you. Billy says, you actually amuse me, for you really need a justification. Semyaza says, of course not, and you understand the meaning of my words exactly. Thus, please don't split hairs and don't make jokes with me. Billy says, I only wanted to push you on the roll. Semyaza says, I don't understand that. Billy says, it means that I allowed myself a joke. Semyaza says, oh, I see, I didn't know that. This expression is new to me. But on the other hand, your words again testify of your peculiar sense of humor and also of the fact that we may be right in our supposition. Billy says, I just can't find everything funny or laugh about things at which other people can laugh. Their sense of humor often seems primitive to me. And now, just leave the suppositions. Semyaza says, laughing, that is known to me very well, and I have often enjoyed your peculiar sense of humor. Well, we will set aside the suppositions in the future. Let the time do its work. Billy says, that's all I need. Was there no other way? Semyaza says, laughing again, I also like to laugh. Billy says, that pleases me. But now, we have gotten off of our conversation. Semyaza says, you're right, because I still have to explain a few things regarding your question. The 7 main stages or main periods mean, in their turn, a 7-fold subdivision for each entire period. You would say that it would be a semester. Accordingly, this would be called, in your sense, a life semester, during which 7 different subjects have to be completed. I want to explain this to you schematically. 1. Primary life. 1. Primary development of the intellect and the consciousness. 2. Primary intellectual thinking and consciousness thinking. 3. Primary cognitive thinking. 4. Primary use of the power of intellect and the power of consciousness. 5. Primary cognitive actions. 6. Primary volitional thinking and acting. 7. Cognitive guidance of life. Life forms in these stages are designated by already reason-gifted beings as mentally ill in consciousness, as idiots, etc., but their consciousness and intellect, in reality, are simply not yet developed in a knowledge-related manner. New spirits, who must first form themselves through learning and experience, etc. 2. Rational life. 1. Primary development of reason. 2. Effective realization of reason and its use. 3. Primary recognition and acknowledgement of higher influences. 4. Belief in higher influences without having knowledge. 5. Belief in higher powers, delusional faith, fear of evil, veneration of good, etc. Germinating time for religions, etc. Present stage of the average Earth human being. 6. Primary recognition of the real reality. Stage of knowledge-related development. Research. First spiritual insights and their use, spiritual healing, telepathy, etc. 7. Primary development of knowledge and wisdom. 3. Intellectual life. 1. High-level development of the intellect. High technology